Okay, everybody, thank you so much for joining us today for the inaugural Inspire Plenary. My name is Nancy Chen, and I'm the current chair of the Asn Diversity Committee. Before I introduce tonight's speaker, I wanted to quickly announce two upcoming diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. So first, the ASN Diversity Committee, so me, Deepa Agashe, Gina Balcom, Kate Eisen, Vince Formica, and Tracy Heath would love to get feedback from all of you on DEI initiatives. We want to make sure that we are doing the best we can to support individuals of all identity groups and to increase diversity and retention in our fields. So we've created a Google form for you to share your thoughts, and you're more than welcome to reach out to any of us directly as well. We're organizing a brainstorming session in mid-February to discuss ideas further, so please sign up if you're interested in participating. You can find the link to the Google form on the DEI chat channel in Slack, and we'll also be sending out emails later this month. Next, I'm excited to announce that a small group of scholars from the natural and social sciences and humanities recently got approval to organize a special issue of AmNat on how systems and power and oppression shape theory and practice and behavior, ecology, and evolution, and genetics. If you have ideas for a shorter title, please let us know. Anyhow, we're interested in looking for historical perspectives and analyses that investigate the cultural, social, and political foundations and the theories and practices in our fields, and also for papers that look at how we can move forward to transform our thinking. So if you're interested in contributing to this special issue, keep an eye out for a formal call for paper proposals next week. And many of the organizers are at this meeting, and we would be happy to answer any questions you have. Okay, so now on to our main event. The ASN Diversity Committee created the Inspire Plenary this year to honor individuals who have made significant contributions to both science as well as diversity, equity, and inclusion. And it may come as no surprise to many of you that we all immediately thought of Dr. Scott Edwards. So Scott is the Alexander Agassiz Professor of Zoology and the Curator of Ornithology in the Museum of Comparative Zoology at Harvard University. He works on a diversity of different topics, ranging from phylogeography and speciation in birds, host pathogen interactions, and statistical models for inferring phylogenies. Some of his more recent work uses comparative genomics to study the genetic basis of phenotypic innovation in birds, including the evolution of flightlessness. Scott's research accomplishments have been widely recognized. He is currently a member of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, a fellow of the American Association of the Advancement of Science, and a member of the National Academy of Sciences. In addition to his research, Scott is very passionate about increasing the participation of underrepresented students and has served as an important mentor for many students and postdocs in the field. So personally, it is a really huge honor and privilege for me to be able to introduce Scott today, as he played a really important role in my own career. So I met Scott when I took his ornithology class on a whim, actually as an undergraduate, and he invited me to work in his lab, and my experience there convinced me to switch and pursue a career in evolutionary biology instead of going to med school. I think my parents still bemoan the fact that I ever met Scott, but I will be forever grateful to him for changing my life. This past summer, Scott biked across the country, raising awareness for Black Lives Matter. His trip also raised nearly $60,000 to support diversity initiatives run by the three societies, so ASN, SSE, and SSB. Scott also is very active in SACNAS, and in 2001, Scott and Richard Kliman created the Undergraduate Diversity at Evolution program, which to date has provided funding and mentorship for nearly 250 students at the annual Evolution meeting. So as many of you know, Scott and Rich were recognized for their work with UDE, and they were awarded the 2020 IDEA Award. I also want to mention that nominations for the 2021 IDEA Award are due in less than a week, and I encourage you all to submit nominations because I think it is really great that we recognize people for the work that they do in improving diversity, inclusiveness, and equity. So now, on behalf of the ASN Diversity Committee, we want to thank you, Scott, for joining us tonight. For those of you in the audience, if you have any questions, please ask them either in the Zoom chat or in the Plenary /Symposia channel on Slack. And with no further ado, please welcome Scott, who will be giving a talk titled Bicycling, Birding, and Black Lives Matter Across America in Our Summer of Chaos.
Thank you so much, Nancy, for that nice introduction. It's great to see everyone. We should be in warm, sunny Asilomar, but I'll have to suffice with being in cold, dark Concord, Massachusetts. But I'm really excited to connect with so many good friends. Really great to see lots of colleagues and lots of new faces out there. And I thought I'd tell you about my summer and all the intersections and new thoughts that it produced in terms of diversity in our field and how we can all make the field of evolutionary biology and ecology better and stronger. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. Great. And hopefully everyone can see that. I thought I'd tell you about just this extraordinary journey I took this summer. It was really a goal of mine for a long time to ride my bicycle across the states. I had done a little bit of bike touring in college, but not really much since then. And this was in some ways a great time to take such a journey. You know, the roads were probably a little less crowded given the pandemic. But there was, it was also a chaotic summer. There was so much strife. There was so much outrage at injustices to Blacks and other groups. And what was intriguing, actually, I thought, was that you could see that outrage not only in the broader world, but actually in our own field. And so many of you are probably aware of the really remarkable, some of the remarkable articles that have come out this summer and fall, trying to present this issue afresh. For many of us, this has been sort of a career-long passion, but it's great to see so many young folks weighing in on the challenges of being from an underrepresented group in ecology and evolution. And it's what's also exciting is that there's a diversity of opinions about how we can fix this issue. It's not as if, I think there's a lot of really clear, simple things we can all do as a community, but it's also the case that, there's different approaches, different ways in which underrepresented groups can contribute and how they can become successful in ecology and evolution. And one example of another hidden figure in ecology evolution, which, to be honest, I just learned about a few weeks ago reading this article in Science, that Charles Turner, who has been important in the Animal Behavior Society for a number of years, but who may be new to many in our community. And I think that it's really incumbent on all of us to dig deep and think about how we've all contributed to this vibrant field, which of course, as represented by the American Society of Naturalists, is really the integration of biological disciplines. Now, the myth of my trip this summer perhaps was captured well by this article that came out in Bicycling magazine just recently. A lot of the attention I got this trip was because I was tweeting and, word spreads. The myth, as you can see, is that, well, millions took to the street to fight racial injustice, and instead I rode across America, implying that I was riding across in protest. And the truth is, when I started this trip, it was really, it was just a personal journey. And I was actually ambivalent about whether I should, leave my family for a few months, and in such a time when, George Floyd had just been killed, and other injustices had occurred throughout the country. And it didn't seem like a particularly safe time to be traveling as an African American alone. But the truth is actually that I had always wanted to do this. And actually, it was Juha Merila, now in Hong Kong, formerly in Finland, who notified me that I had given the quote of the day in one of the Nature news briefings. This is super exciting. I figured I can't make it into Nature through my publications, so I might as well make it in through a quote of the day. And that quote was, "A bicycle trip is in some ways a good metaphor for a journey in science. You will run into hills and roadblocks and flat tires. Just don't let it stop you." And perhaps more importantly, they noted that this, in fact, was a lifelong dream. It was not originally taken as a statement. Really, my consciousness expanded during the journey, and a series of fortunate events kind of allowed the trip, I think, to take on a broader meaning. And so here's a snapshot of where I was this summer. I spent 76 days starting on June 6th, 2020 in Plum Island, Massachusetts, ending 2.5 months later in Sunset Beach, Oregon. And it was, my routes were not planned out completely from the beginning. I benefited a lot from some of the maps that are published by the Adventure Cycling Association, but I also had to do quite a bit on the fly because none of the routes really, none of them, for example, started in Massachusetts, and none of them combined the particular route that I wanted to take, which namely was specifically was the fastest, straightest route across the country. This was not a leisurely trip. Like many of you, I had a deadline. I had to be back online teaching in my home come early September. So I didn't have a chance to really wander around as some people have on such trips. So here I am beginning my trip in Plum Island, and for any of you who've cycled or done bike touring, you know that you have to carry your house on your bicycle. You have your sleeping bag and your sleeping pad. You have a tent. You have lots of repair tools and spare parts for your bicycle. You carry food and water, so it's I think I was carrying about 60 pounds of gear, which made for slow but steady going. My nickname for my bicycle was the aircraft carrier, and I was fortunate to be able to camp out in many different places for much of the trip, whenever I could, whenever there was a campground nearby. As you can see from these first two shots, in many cases, I had the campgrounds entirely to myself because, especially during the week, I guess COVID was keeping people off the streets. I did stay in the occasional hotel or the occasional cabin, as you see here in Montana on the bottom. But in general, when the conditions were right, I headed for the tent. I think I probably sleep better in a tent than I do in my own bed. And it was just a really great way to cool off at the end of a long day. I also took advantage of water whenever it was available. I would often call campgrounds and ask, do you have a swimming pool? Because if there was another one in town that did, then I was over at that swimming pool for sure. And here I am dunking my feet in the Madison River in Montana. A really wonderful way to cool off at the end of a hot ride. Here's an elevation profile of my trip, starting in the east on the right side. And some of the landmarks in terms of elevation included the Green Mountains, really my first set of hills in Vermont. And then some of the flatlands leading through the Lake Erie Basin in upstate New York. Instead of visiting Nancy, which I should have done in Rochester, I ended up going further south to Ithaca, New York, where I also had some friends. And that was actually quite a bit of hills. So I paid for it, Nancy. Don't worry. I was punished for not going the flat route towards Rochester. Then it was down to the valley near Lake Erie, and then a long stretch in the Midwest. This was actually one of the few semi-natural stretches of prairie that I encountered, most of it actually being dominated by cornfields. Some of the elevation began to increase in the South Dakota in the Badlands, and my first real set of hills was, of course, in the Black Hills of South Dakota. I then had 3 major passes, all in Montana, although my maximum elevation was only about 6,200 feet. I actually went north specifically to avoid some of the 8,000, 9,000, 10,000 foot passes that the maps were telling me to undertake. Remarkably, 2 of the hardest days of the entire trip were in the Palouse region of southeast Washington, which, despite its lower absolute elevation, had some of the steepest grades and hottest weather that I experienced the whole trip. But it was I had a lot of preparation though for the Rockies towards the end. Now, as an ornithologist, birds were naturally just a basic part of it each day. And although I only had a cell phone with me, hopefully you can appreciate some of the great species I saw. Sometimes putting headphones on helps you hear some of the calls. Here's an osprey I encountered in Montana. I was actually really surprised that even as a bicyclist, if I approached their nest up on a pole too closely, they would inevitably get very skittish. Often I saw chicks in the nest, but they were spooked even a diminutive bicyclist such as myself. Here's some killdeer. You can see this little guy running away from me here. This was killdeer were absolutely ubiquitous. They're a species that has become very much at home in the cornfields of the Midwest. One of the species that I got to know very well, which I didn't know at all, was the Upland Sandpiper, which is a member of the shorebird family, and which, unlike most shorebirds, spends most of its time inland. And it was great to first discover the species in Indiana, really the easternmost part of its range, and then to get to know it repeatedly throughout the trip. Towards the end, I could, recognize it by its call, by its flight from a distance. And that's one of the joys of being a field naturalist on such a trip, is you really can get to know your animal community quite well as you ride. Oops. I did quite a bit of birding by ear. For many of you who are bird watchers, you'll know that most bird identification actually takes place by ear. You can probably hear the chipping sparrow in this. There it is, chipping sparrow calling somewhere in the brush. And also on this stretch, I ran into some common nighthawks, one of the first on my trip. Some of the first Western birds were really exciting, and it's great when you've been riding so hard and riding so long to finally see some species that are unambiguously Western. So here are Western kingbirds, which I first encountered in South Dakota. These are probably 2 juvenile birds just having fun in the breeze. You can hear the highway there in the background. And once I got out west, things got really exciting. I got the opportunity to spend a morning on massive private ranch. And there I saw pronghorn, which you see here, and panning over to some white-tailed deer. This is the base of the Bighorn Mountains in Sheridan, Wyoming. And additionally, I saw lots of swallows. Swallows were sort of a ubiquitous partner during the whole trip, and as many of you know, they take advantage of our bridge infrastructure. They love to nest on bridges, and so I was greeted to hundreds of cliff swallows and other swallows as I crossed the Missouri River for the first time in South Dakota. Another great view from the base of the Bighorn Mountains were these sandhill cranes, which you can see flying low below the horizon, left to right here. Another great Western species. You know, being on a bicycle it's different from normal birding. You can't just zip off to see some rare bird at a moment's notice. So you really have to take what comes to you. And I think it brings a lot of humility, and it kind of, it impresses upon you just the challenges of observing nature on two wheels. One of my favorite habitats, which I had really never encountered before, were the potholes of South Dakota. Remarkable habitat, often sandwiched in between acres and acres of cultivated land. Here's some white-faced ibises flying, and you'll see a black tern come into view. These are classic pothole species, and it was great to encounter them, and really it's a beautiful habitat. And one person commented on Twitter that if it weren't for vigilant folks, many of these potholes would be just paved over by agriculture, and fortunately many of them have been preserved. Entering Badlands National Park was a real treat. Here you can see a burrowing owl. Well, here's a prairie dog yipping, and then we'll pan over to a burrowing owl. And entering this park was really amazing, because it was almost as if the really wild and big animals have been placed there on cue. For the first time, I saw pronghorns, I saw buffalo, I saw this burrowing owl and prairie dogs, with really much less diversity outside the park. And so you really got the sense that this park served as an island of biodiversity. Now, sadly, many of the birds I encountered were dead on the road. And I think many of us appreciate, although I probably didn't appreciate, just how much carnage occurs on our roadsides. And these, of course, are birds that have been hit by cars. And I worry that many times drivers may not even know that they've hit a bird. It's you often don't even hear them hit your car as you're driving through, and folks are often driving super fast anyway. But there's an extraordinary diversity of species that are being impacted in this way. And I think all of us can be more vigilant about how we can reduce the death toll of on our roads. Rivers formed really kind of the backbone to my trip, and every time I crossed the river, it was just a really encouraging milestone. The first river I crossed was the Merrimack River in New Hampshire, and here you see some of the really exciting milestones on the eastern part of my trip. Out west, the rivers were even more dramatic, and many of them quite historical. And so, for example, the Little Bighorn River in the upper left here was, of course, a site of a major battle between Native Americans and General Custer. One of the few that is celebrated by Native Americans as a success, as a victory over the US forces. The Clearwater River in the lower left was just beautiful, and one of the world famous fly fishing for salmon locations. And then you have the Columbia River with its vast expanse, just almost otherworldly. I'll let you indulge here on an expanse of the Yellowstone River, which I was fortunate enough to bicycle by side for about a week of my journey. This is actually a river that Lewis and Clark spent a lot of time traveling along. And it's also the river that harbors the longest stretch of undammed river in the lower 48. It's over 600 miles of undammed river, and was just an absolute treat to camp next to. This is in Montana. Now, most of the middle of the trip was a little bit more monotonous. Here you can see a vast expanse of monoculture of corn. But what was interesting was, you know, the infrastructure and the efforts to look at green energy. And so you'd see these vast fields of wind turbines, which were really, really exciting. At the same time, I witnessed a lot of examples of sort of aging infrastructure. Some of the shots on the bottom here are old, outmoded grain silos, rusting grain silos. And of course, our train system, I frequently encountered trains carrying huge train loads of coal. And I would often ask the locals, well, where is this train going? Often they were going west with just a mile-long train of coal. And jokingly, people would say China. But in fact, I need to learn where that coal is going, because I'm not convinced it actually is going to China. Anyway, there were many counterpoints, I would say, some real inspiring moments seeing this alternative energy, and others, frankly, somewhat depressing. And talking with locals often in this town of Arvada, Wyoming, where many of the locals were lamenting the passing of the coal paradigm. Many of them came from families who had grown up in the coal industry. And, you know, at one level, I could understand their anxiety at seeing their lifestyle being changed. And yet, I think we all appreciate that we've got to move beyond coal to make our planet sustainable. And some of the vast infrastructure for agriculture that I saw it's just staggering. I mean, from a science point of view, I was naturally drawn to how we're able to move gigatons of agricultural products across the country so efficiently. And it's the kind of national project that reminds me of perhaps, I don't know, the Manhattan Project, or some sort of, any project requires a lot of national coordination. And I think we can do this in many ways that are, perhaps more sustainable for the country and for the planet. And I was able to answer an age-old question that I had, namely, how are those circular bales of hay actually produced? I ran into this farmer in South Dakota who finally answered that burning question for me when I saw this circular hay bale being produced. I actually had a really enjoyable time spending half an hour talking with him about his profession. And, I will say that there's, you're talking to someone who doesn't know how to drive a tractor. Regardless of your feelings about mass agriculture, it's impressive to see the type of skills that goes into making a successful farm. I spent several days with friends and colleagues, and many of these stops just reminded me of sort of the intersection between academics and the broader world. Here's my former postdoc, Sangeet Lamachaney, who hails from Nepal. He came to the U.S. just 2 or 3 years ago, and yet now is employed as an assistant professor at Kent State University. And these are, I think, are bright spots in terms of the willingness of academics to take on folks at some level. Of course, we're all immigrants to this country at some level, And I think it's inspiring to see and, of course, appreciate the amazing contribution of immigrants of all stripes to our field and to evolutionary biology in general. Sangeet studies evolutionary genomics of birds and other vertebrates, and I think has a very bright future ahead of him. I was also, to me, seeing the subdivision where Sangeet had bought a new home, it just, it made me very, very happy in the sense that, this is truly the American dream, to buy a house and to become established in a community. And, as this is a new community, you don't see many trees there. It's sort of a lot of rows and rows of houses, but at the same time, this is a point of pride, in many ways. So they're very inspiring. Now, I couldn't resist taking a 30-mile detour to Galesburg, Illinois, because, of course, that's the home of one of the ASN's signature icons, Sewell Wright. Sewell Wright was born here, and in fact, you can visit his house, which you see here on the left, which doesn't actually mention Sewell, but does mention his father, Philip Greenwright, who published a lot of the poems of a much more famous Galesburg resident, namely Carl Sandburg. Carl Sandburg has a nice historical house preserved where I spent a really relaxing lunch. No such commemorization of Sewell Wright. So I think we have to work on that. It was also very exciting to pass through Native American lands and to meet Native Americans on the road. A lot of really interesting stories. I learned, for example, from my colleague Corey Welch, that the Meskwaki tribe, which you see here illustrated on the lower left, is the only federally recognized Native American tribe in Iowa. Although I can't claim to have gotten a deep insight into the current events on Indian reservations, it was nonetheless really exciting to pass through Crow Reservation, Nez Perce Reservation, lots of areas where I, was able to see firsthand how Native Americans were doing. And of course, my trip was tinged throughout, especially at the second half, by Lewis and Clark, and of course the remarkable story of Sacagawea and how she traveled with the troops, with her newborn son. And of course, many credit her with the success of the Lewis and Clark expedition. And, I think she is justifiably recognized as an a very critical, essential member of the team. Now, from the very beginning of my trip, I was struck by the many sort of earnest and heartfelt expressions of outrage at the events that were unfolding this summer. These are just pictures of handmade signs I encountered during the first week of my trip. And I was naturally inspired to do the same, although I confess I didn't begin my trip with this in mind. And it was when I pulled into Schenectady, New York, and spent an evening with a lady who had registered on a website called warmshowers.org. This was a website specifically for cyclists, and it arranges homestays. Despite the pandemic, she was gracious enough to let me into her house and for a night's stay. And about 24 hours before I arrived, all of these, the news and events and Black Lives Matter in the air basically compelled me to festoon my bicycle with Black Lives Matter signs. Now, what was exciting to me was that I knew that I knew that my host in the next evening was going to be very helpful in this endeavor, because when we were exchanging notes and arranging my visit, she asked me if I had participated in the Black Birders Week on Twitter after learning that I was an ornithologist. And this I thought was very intriguing, because not only was the Black Birders Week little known to me just a week before it erupted in mid-June, but that she, a white lady, would have heard of this movement. And so I knew that if I contacted her and asked her if she could get some signs together for me within 24 hours, that she could do it. I just knew she was plugged in and she would be sympathetic. And I actually put the grommets of my signs together on her porch, and began my journey with a new emphasis. And I won't claim that I was, biking from town to town holding workshops on diversity, but I would suggest that these signs definitely started a lot of conversations that I would not have had had they not been there. I also collected a few signs from my good friends at the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. John Fitzpatrick, the director, was curious whether I'd be willing to carry signs with Cornell's name on them, hailing from the other Crimson University, but I was more than delighted to. And these signs also got a lot of interest and some very heartfelt and touching questions. I remember a South Asian store owner in South Dakota asked me, birds spark hope? What's that all about? And yet I think at some level he knew, especially given the events of the summer, exactly what it meant, that nature in general deserves our protection, because that's going to be our salvation in the long run. And it was about maybe 2 or 3 weeks into the trip that my good friend Sally Otto sort of realized what I, up till then, for me, was just a pipe dream, namely to begin a fundraiser. And many people, in fact, were asking me as I rode through their town, are you raising money? Can I contribute money for something? And, until Sally got into the game, I basically had to say, no, I'm not raising any money. It was really Sally who connected the dots, started this diversity initiative, and for which I was the eager instrument. And I just can't thank Sally enough for doing that. And it's still open, I think, if anyone wants to contribute. It's a really wonderful fund, which of course is going to benefit ASN as well as the other societies to increase diversity in ecology and evolution. I ended my trip in Portland, Oregon, and as all of you know, that was really the apogee of outrage for much of the summer. And one of the things that I really learned on this trip was just, I think that honestly, the divide in our country right now is not so much Black versus white, or even Republican versus Democrat. I think the real divide is rural versus urban. Now, of course, those other categories and variables will co-vary substantially with rural versus urban. When I was in the sticks, you could tell the political climate just by the signs on the side of the road. As soon as I entered a city, you can see here on the upper right, this sign just outside of Iowa City, the political landscape changed and the whole tenor changed. And it was quite exciting to see, just to cycle in and out of this oscillating political spectrum. And in the end, it was really the people that I encountered which were just so extraordinary. I won't say I agreed with all of their political views, but what I learned is that, we can make connections between people that otherwise would never have encountered each other. I think many folks that I encountered and many communities that I cycled through understandably couldn't sympathize with Black Lives Matter, partly because they probably, if not had ever met a Black person, they certainly didn't have any Black friends. These are very white communities, and there's simply not an opportunity to have acquaintances from other races. Lenny, this guy up here on the upper right, was really the only African American on the entire trip with whom I had a substantive conversation. And it was quite interesting to hear his perspective on life and work in Eastern Washington. But I would say to a person, the generosity and goodwill I experienced was 100%. I experienced repeatedly acts of generosity and goodwill that simply came out of nowhere. And I also saw reasons why people might be ambivalent about movements like Black Lives Matter, especially when they're considered sort of naively on the surface that you would, for example, see on the evening news. For example, this couple in the lower right from Portland, Oregon, their store had been looted during one of the Black Lives Matter protests. Now, we all know the complexities of ascribing that to the actual protesters, but nonetheless, one can appreciate the ambivalence that they might feel towards how we as a community respond to these injustices. This guy on the upper left gave me a lecture about how the Black Lives Matter movement was being funded by the Democrats, and how it was essentially synonymous with looting and violence. And I did what I could in the short time that I had with these people to try to explain my point of view and to try to disambiguate many of the conflated signals that we would get from mass media. I'll just share with you two moods, I will say, that are captured by these short videos. As many of you know, I'm a drummer. I love music. Music is a really important part of my life. And here are two first little vignettes showing some of the mellower morning rides I had to the tunes of the incomparable Joni Mitchell. Obviously an appropriate song for a long solo journey. At the other end of the extreme was when the middle of the afternoon, when you were basically battling with the Mack trucks on the side of the road. This required something a little edgier music-wise. And there I am at the Pacific Coast, having finished my journey on the coast of Oregon. Just a brief slide on how you can help. I think increasing diversity in our field, everyone can play a role. You don't have to be from an underrepresented group to really make an important contribution. I won't go through these in detail. Get involved with Nancy's group or a diversity side of any society. And, increasing diversity in our field can come at any level, all the way from high school up to tenured faculty and leadership positions. And so, and I think this summer, convinced all of us that, yeah, we really need to ramp up our game. And I think it's a really exciting opportunity that we can all look forward to. As Nancy mentioned, I've been very fortunate to work with a lot of really dedicated people over my career. People like Rich Kliman, who shared the IDEA Award with me, Jory Weintraub, which you see here on the left, who's been a stalwart of our meetings for many years, Louise Mead at Michigan State University, who now is shepherding the undergraduate diversity program. And you can see Tracy Heath in there, lots of old friends. Anyway, it's super fun. And, you know, there is a parallel universe out there where young scientists in ecology and evolution are hyper diverse. And here's one example. You can see them also at national meetings like the Society for the Advancement of Chicano and Native American Scientists. They are out there. The question is, how do we retain them and keep them in our field? Just to end on some pieces of advice I got. The first was to eat well, lots of fruit and nuts. And yeah, I did that. In fact, now that I'm home, all I pretty much eat are fruit and nuts, much to the concern of my wife. She says I eat too many nuts. One of the really nice pieces of advice, again, that I got from Yuha Merila, was not to focus on the endpoint, to take each day at a time. And that proved to be extremely important. Just trying to finish that next 50 miles to get you to the next point. And then finally, although it might seem obvious, just to enjoy yourself. You know, there were enough kind of logistical concerns that I often found myself consumed with where I was going to stay, where I was going to eat, you know, where can I find a bike shop or whatever. And those moments when I just sort of slapped myself on the cheek and said, wow, isn't this amazing? Those are really priceless moments. And I want to thank you all for listening to me. And yeah, grab your bicycle and take to the hills.
Thank you so much, Scott, for bringing us along on your journey. If folks have questions or comments, please feel free to share them in the chat or in Slack. I'll also be checking Slack.
People we know.
Actually, a lot of colleagues in ecology and evolution have reached out and said, hey, I like bicycling too. So it's been fun to see people come out of the woodwork. That said, I don't consider myself a cyclist.
Oh my God,
really. I'm not a cyclist. I'm more of someone who, you know, enjoys the long haul. You know.
Scott, what was your favorite moment during your journey?
Wow. Well, I spent a really nice 15 miles riding with Brian Karstens of Ohio State University. I think many of you probably know Brian, phylogeographer extraordinary. It was great when folks just came out and joined the ride with me. And in fact, I met one academic who taught at a small school in South Dakota, whom I had never met before. I sort of met on Twitter. He drove 75 miles to say hello and to show me around his haunts, and I learned a ton about ecology and habitats in South Dakota. So, you know, it wasn't it wasn't a question of being lonely, because I was either biking, where you're kind of in your own little universe, or interacting with people to kind of you know, get through the rest of the day. So so yeah, it was great. You know, Ames, Iowa. I had a great couple of days there. Just you know, I confess, this is my community. So you come together, you're talking. It's like, oh, okay, finally I can have a real conversation. It's sort of like a breath of fresh air.
Okay, we have a question from Don Waller. Why did you ride from east to west?
Thank you for that question. You know, a lot of colleagues were telling me, no, you're going the wrong direction. You know, you got to go west to east. And first of all, I asked them, well, have you done this before? I mean, are you speaking from experience, or, you know, is this hearsay? And I will, okay, I knew, yeah. The headwinds, the tailwinds, prevailing winds generally go west to east. That's what I had heard. I think I probably had as many tailwinds on my trip as I did headwinds. So, and you know, in truth, my daughter had actually cycled east to west 2 summers earlier, sort of with a group trip. And, you know, hey, if she can do it, well, then I can do it, right? But I will say, I'm sure there is some truth to perhaps a few more tailwinds going west to east, and I will say the unfolding drama of US history is much more profound going east to west than going west to east. So, and that for me was priceless. So, yeah.
Anna Hargreaves has a bird question. I've never seen a sandpiper fly somewhere high and perch. Is that common for the inland species you showed? Oh, and she has a politics question, but maybe I'll let you answer the bird question first.
That's actually a really great question because, well, again, like I said, I didn't know Upland Sandpipers well, but I posted one of those videos on Twitter of it perching on a wire, and I got so many responses saying, I didn't know they perched on wires. You know, no one's ever seen them on a wire. So it was, you know, I think it's pretty regular behavior for them. But apparently it's a little observed behavior. Maybe I can submit that as a natural history note to AmNat.
There is a special section for those. Okay, and for the politics question, how did you start the how did you start the conversation with the man convinced that BLM was funded by the Democrats?
I mean, I kind of avoided overtly talking about politics, but of course, when you have this BLM sign on your bike, you know, and honestly, occasionally I would come into a town or someone was hosting me or a campground, and I would say to the person, look, if this sign is offensive to you, I will take it down. You know, I don't think there's much point in making people feel uncomfortable, right? And so that particular conversation started just because, you know, he saw the sign and we got to talking, and you know, I wasn't hell bent on convincing people otherwise, but yeah, it's unfortunate, I would say, the deluge of misinformation out there, and you know, honestly, I think part of the answer is simply getting people together. I mean, honestly, you know, you spend time with people and they're your friends, and like, you know, they're not going to diss you when they're acquaintances. And so it's partly just a matter of getting communities together, I think, to share experiences.
Multiple people have asked, how many flat tires did you have during your trip?
Oh man, I know this is going to sound disappointing. I only had 3 flat tires. But now part of that was preventative, because when I was in Ames, I actually changed my back tire proactively. So, you know, I was lucky. My last flat tire, actually, I sort of threw up my hands. I was about 7 miles from where I was going to stay that night in Portland, Oregon. And, you know, I just called the guy up and said, can you pick me up? You know, I don't want to change this on the road. But actually changing a tire you get a super feeling of accomplishment. I know it's lightweight when it comes to mechanics, but, you know, it gives you a feeling of accomplishment.
Susanna Wagner, sorry if I mispronounced your name, has two questions. Were you ever afraid for your safety? And if so, what did you do in those situations?
Yeah, thanks for that question. I was occasionally I was sort of rattled by a conversation I had. I in eastern Wyoming once, this young guy just sat down across from me at a cafe and started lecturing me about how blacks really have to thank the Republican Party for allowing them to vote way back in Lincoln's day. And he was sufficiently strident that it rattled me a bit. That said, though, it was I won't say I was afraid for my safety very often in terms of race or just social environment. I was occasionally quite worried about my safety just because of cars and trucks. I think trucks. I will say many of the truckers went out of their way to give me a lane's width. They would cross over so they didn't drive right past me, and I was really thankful for that. By contrast, a lot of the people driving RVs, they don't know how to drive RVs, and so when they zoom past you, it sort of it shakes you. So I was probably much more consistently worried about my physical safety because of cars than I was because of safety based for political or social reasons.
Thanks, Scott. Liz Tapanis has a question. For early career BIPOC scientists who may be in the audience, do you have any advice for them/us about how to stay hopeful about DEI within academia?
I honestly consider my race, my being Black, as an asset. And I think particularly when you can link that, you have to at some level play the game, I would say. I think success in academics depends on, not only doing good work, but writing it up. I really think that, publishing is very important. And so if you can link that with contributing to diversity as well, I'm telling you, it's a winning combination. And I think you have to seek out your role models, and you have to realize, don't convince yourself that the system is against you. I think, yes, there are examples, in my career, in our community, of stuff that is poorly said, stuff that shouldn't be said, uncomfortable moments and moments that shouldn't have taken place. Those things happen. I mean, it's just inevitable, but you can't let that slow you down. And especially now, I think, as a community, we're all more aware of the need for diversity. And don't convince yourself that you're, I don't want to sound too naive. In some circles, you might be disadvantaged, but don't convince yourself of that. I think that putting in the hard work and linking that with your own personality and what you can bring to the table is very important. We all have our individual perspectives, and the trick is to infuse your science with your sense of urgency and your desire to succeed, and use your status as an underrepresented group as an asset. Don't think of it as a crutch.
Thanks for that answer, Scott. Tracy Heath wants to know if you had any research breakthroughs while biking.
Oh, man. Well, I had an epiphany, and that was that, Corey Welch and I have to publish that tree creeper paper that we started back in 1995. That was like, I was like, we have to do this, and it will get done. I just saw a lot of cool stuff. Whether or not it turns into research, I don't know. Some of the ecological transitions from, for example, from Eastern Washington to the moisture Cascades. It's fascinating to think about how bird communities change and how individual species ranges change. And so, for example, I want to figure out what is constraining the eastern edge of the range of the California scrub jay. It seems to appear as you're riding east to west in sort of a place. It could have appeared 50 miles to the west or 50 miles to the east. And so I want to know what's constraining its range. Lots and lots of just really interesting anecdotal kinds of questions. Whether or not they'll turn into research projects, I don't know.
Catherine Drodos asks, do you have a favorite or most interesting bird you saw on your trip? And did you see anything far outside of its normal range?
No, I don't think I saw anything outside its normal range. I mean, if you look at the first encounters of a lot of species, for example, going east to west, I encountered many Western species relatively far into their range, because I mean, you're traveling on this lone single line of a band of on your course of your journey, and you have just so much limited ability to see around you. I would say, just a lot of exciting moments. Seeing the first yellow-headed blackbird, that was really exciting. And passing over this Lolo Pass outside of Missoula, Montana, really extraordinary change of biome. You enter, for example, this sort of western isolate population of western red cedar, and the entire bird community is different. The winter wrens are singing, and you're in this moist, dark environment, and it's just you have a real appreciation for how it's kind of a remnant sort of island of habitat that is carrying this whole community with it.
Nice. Mark McPeak wants to know, what was the most surprising conversation you had with someone?
Wow. Well, yeah, it'd have to be with Lenny, the African American guy in Southeast Washington. I asked him, like, well, how do you manage, surrounded by all these, well, I won't be too explicit, but but he had it. He was on top of it. He said, "Oh, it doesn't faze me, all the politics around me. I know how to handle it." He looked me in the eye and said, "I just knew he was together. He knew how to fend off all the craziness that was around him." A lot of I also met a really interesting young guy who worked as a mechanic for wind turbines. I told him about a conversation I'd had in Wyoming with a lady who was lamenting the demise of the coal industry. And she asserted that, in fact, wind turbines, they're a losing proposition anyway, because the turbines, they go bad after people don't make their money. They lose money, because they break down. And I was like, is that true? Anyway, fast forward a month, and I was talking to this guy who worked on wind turbines, and I asked him, is that true? He said, no way. I know wind turbines that have been going for 15 years, going strong, and the owners made their money on them a decade ago. So that was a really enlightening conversation, sort of like two conversations passing in the night, but it was nice to resolve them.
A question from Ellen Sims. Where will you go and what will you do this coming summer?
Oh man, I don't know. I can tell you right now, I'm unlikely to bike across the country again. Although I did meet a couple that was bicycling west to east. And we actually kept in touch, and it's amazing. We left within a few days of each other on our respective coasts, and we arrived on our finish line within a day or two of each other. It was remarkable. We met for one day in South Dakota. They've told me that they're hitting the road again in 2022. I suspect I will be enjoying, hopefully, life that's approaching, getting closer to normality with the pandemic this summer. And maybe I'll join Mark McPeak on a ride around the lake in New Hampshire, but nothing extravagant.
If there are no further questions for Scott, let's thank him again for a really fun talk. Thank you so much, Scott.
Yeah,